Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, Bill, you are co-host.
Hello.
Let's give everyone a few more minutes to get on before we start the agenda. Good, loudest on.
Steve just gave us some bad news. Diller's is closing.
What is?
Diller's next to the pickle
Oh,
place.
the pickle place?
Yeah, the vegan.
Everyone loves Dillers.
It's so good.
That's closing?
Yeah, I feel like,
That's what Steve said. Steve, where are you reading
oh my
this?
gosh.
Jacob Goldman posted it. Our
I'm
neighborhood logo man.
surprised.
Wow.
I am too.
Yeah.
I love it.
They always seem to have a crowd.
Always.
Yeah.
My niece is going to be very upset.
Yeah.
She comes
Steve's
here
favorite
sometimes.
burger.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Oh,
what's our time?
Sorry.
It's, okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're being recorded, just so everybody knows that for sure. There's Kenny. So we have a pretty short agenda tonight. And we really, because we have an in-person general meeting on November 20th, we need to, and we're going to request a bylaw change. We need to put it out there the meeting before we actually request a vote on it. So we want to inform you of what the bylaw change is tonight. Also, it's the annual meeting, which means that we will vote for the bylaw change has to do with who's on the executive committee. And we will also know, we want to invite people to let us know if they intend to run for anything during next month's meeting. So we can all, be kind of prepared for what we're doing there. Those are our main agenda items. There's a few other things that we'll want to talk about getting out the vote. Of course, I just got a request from Chris Marte's people for us to sign up for shifts, to like be out on the corners or out of the polling stations. I'm going to be out at Junior High School 56 this week, so we can talk about that a little bit more if that's great with everyone. I thought I would start, if it's okay, with doing a very short land acknowledgement. And I will say that we are, in Lenape-Hoking, and it's the unceded land of the Lenape people. And maybe we just pay our respects by honoring the fact that this is unceded land, and we continue to occupy it. And I believe that we need to own the truth in order to begin to figure out how to make some kind of restitution for that. Truth is critical in building relationships that help us to acknowledge what has been. And I just think it's nice for us to spend a moment and think about where we are and who was here before. So thank you, or Wanishi, which is thank you in Lenape. Okay, so let's begin the meeting. Let's start with the bylaw changes, because that's kind of very, very clear what's going to happen. And the bylaws now state that our officers are a president, up to 3 vice presidents, a secretary, and a treasurer. What we'd like to add, and we'll take a vote on this next week, is that up to 3 at-large executive committee members can be added to the list of officer positions as the need and or appropriate persons present themselves. So it'll be 3 people that won't have one of the titles of the executive officers, but bring other things to the club that we find are important. And I'm going to, since they're both on here right now, I'm going to state that basically we have Laura Travers is going to put her name up for secretary. Laura, you want to say anything since I'm bringing you up now? Nice to see you.
You don't
Nice
have
to
to if you don't
meet
want
you.
to. It's
No, well,
Thank you, Kenny.
If that's useful, I'm happy to read the minutes, etc. in the coming year. Yes.
Great, thank
Great.
you. And that means that Frank Gonzalez will step down as secretary, and we would like Frank to take one of the first executive committee seats at large. And in Frank's case, that would probably take a title such as, although we don't necessarily have to title them, with as community liaison, because he's been extremely helpful to us in terms of getting us involved in community things and meeting people that we were not
Watson.
involved. I'm sorry?
So Marion, I'll jump in. I'd like to second this. And if any of the 16 people, Mary has a question, but I'd like to open the discussion to anyone and let's move this along because, let's just, everyone has a agenda. Everyone has everything, other things to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Marianne. This is Mary Jo.
Hi, Mary Jo, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. What's up?
I'm confused as to what's going on because this looks like it's a general meeting, but we're voting on things and
No one's voting. We're just
No,
talking
we're not
about a
voting.
resolution.
So this is just a discussion. So is it just for the executive committee to vote
No.
next week?
Nope.
No, it's a
Nope.
general meeting vote. No, it's not next week.
Oh, that's
November
what-
20th. If I said next week, I'm sorry. I've been.
It's a general meeting that's open to everyone. The only thing on the agenda, though, is to discuss these bylaws so we can get them introduced to people, so we can vote on them a month from now. So anyone can talk about anything, but really only on the agenda was just to take care of this. We just had a meeting. We're having a meeting in November. All the politicians just saw us at our party. So Mark Levine was going to come, but then he couldn't come. So there's nothing hidden here. It's just, this is the only thing on the agenda.
Okay, I
Everyone's
just wasn't
welcome.
sure.
Yeah, sure. Thank
Okay.
you, Mary.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Mary Jo, we are inviting people to put their interests for running for the executive committee. This is an invitation. I've already put the invitation out to Lauda, so I wanted to say that I know that she's interested in running for the secretary seat. And we know that Frank is interested in running for an at-large seat. And anybody else who's interested in a seat, you can tell us tonight, or you can nominate yourself or someone else at the meeting. But right, we wanted to get, it's in our bylaws that if we want a bylaw change, we bring it up at the meeting before we're going to vote. So we are not voting today. It will be a full general meeting and we will vote then. So is it clearer now?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Jeremy. Hi.
Hey guys. I think it totally makes sense to build in some more flexibility to what's happening on the executive committee. So I think that's great. I was curious why, I actually don't think it totally matters, but I was curious why having 3 vice presidents wasn't enough flexibility. Why couldn't there be a vice president for community affairs rather than a at-large member for community affairs? Was there a reason to change
Yes, Jeremy.
the wording?
Because people hear vice president and they think that, oh, they're vice president, they don't have to do anything. And so it's not, it just makes it harder. And so if you don't want to bring that much, but you're an at-large member, we're offering this opportunity to come to us. But if you're going to be a vice president, you have to come to us with something to offer, which is why we have these options. But we're offering this at large positions just for people who might not feel comfortable contributing as much as a vice president.
That sounds great. Kind of lower the bar for that kind of engagement and make sure that more
Right.
people can get. Awesome. Thank you.
Basically, we want a more active group. We want a more active executive committee. We want a more active club. So we're trying to look at ways to invite people to bring their strengths and to be more active with us. And that's had some good results. I mean, like I said, we've done a lot more community things. Also, just one of the things that Frank suggested we do this year was a month ago, we contributed to the book bag giveaway. And we donated $600 in book bags. And as it turns out, when we started announcing it, we made that much back, that people donated that money to the club. People like to donate for something, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
5 or 6 of us ended up spending the day there, making relationships with some of our community members that we don't necessarily or didn't necessarily have before.
Right.
So anything that leads us to doing more of that, I think is a good thing.
And Maren, just to piggyback on the $600 that we raised, we had a very successful fundraiser just a few weeks ago, and we've had a membership drive. And, you know, we've brought in about half of what we've had in the past. So we've never had more money than we've ever had before. And so, you know, I think that from a financial aspect, I think we're in a great situation. And just like Marian said, when we have smaller things to raise money for, we can ask for people. And I think we're confident that members will step up and donate $25, $50 for things. And then we can spend our larger money on bigger goals, help politicians. And, you know, we talked to the Board of Elections. They're very specific about things that we can spend our money on. We can't just donate it to charities or to causes that we like. It has to be for political purposes. So we have to find very specific things. But, you know, as I say, we're in an overall good financial situation. Just to piggyback on, sorry to interrupt you, Marian.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So is the bylaw change pretty clear so that when it's introduced next time, it will be introduced as a request for vote to actually make the change, and then we'll update it in our website and in our bylaws. And we invite everybody, Harriet, let me finish my thought and I'll get you. We invite everybody to step in more if you're interested in doing so. And I think that's why we wanted to talk about nominations and have Lauda come and have Frank come. And I don't know, actually, Lauda, we asked you to talk. Frank, was there anything else you wanted to say about the possible position to
Yes, thank you guys.
at large?
Sorry, I'm out in the street. I don't know if you can hear me clearly, but thank you
Yeah.
everybody for meeting today. And thank you, Lauda, for stepping up, because secretary position was a lot for me, a lot of personal matters in that sense, but it was a challenging thing for me, believe it or not. So thank you for stepping up. And you know, and if there's any other positions opening up, I, you know, potentially just want to help out in a sense. And I hope we can continue to build together and do projects and make an impact in our community, because I think that, you know, as a group, as a community, we could definitely, hopefully work together. So thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And Harriet, I haven't forgotten you.
I just want to throw out as like, if
Okay.
someone wants to do like an at-large thing, like there have been like a number of things that I wanted to do this upcoming election season with like Ohio and just like organizing phone banks and stuff. And I just am too tapped out as the VP. So, you know, if anyone wanted to do something like that, that would be amazing.
Great. Thank you. So, and bring that up again, Melissa, next meeting when we actually will be taking nominations. Okay, Harriet's been trying to talk. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Hi,
no,
Harriet.
that's okay. Hi, I didn't have my volume on for a few minutes, and I was just wondering, did I miss the changes to the bylaws that are being going to be up for a vote?
Yeah, I'll say it again because a couple of people weren't on yet when I did say it. Basically, the bylaws state that we have one president, up to 3 vice presidents. We only have 1 right now, but we could have 2 more. A treasurer and a secretary. And the change that we're suggesting is up to 3 at-large executive committee members can be added to the list of officer positions, and appropriate as they need, and appropriate persons present themselves. And so the need in this case that kind of started us doing this was Frank's really incredible connections and involvement in getting us to do more community work that we've always wanted to do, and kind of making the introductions and getting us involved. So it's simply to add those 3 at-large positions. And we don't have to vote on it until next time. So it's something for you to consider. That's why we're raising it tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, did somebody else have their hand up? Oh, Lauda, yeah.
So sorry, I just wanted to make sure I understood, Marianne. So basically, right now, the way it works is that there's a president, 3 vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer.
Mhm.
And we would add on top of that 3 at-large vice president, if you want, right? Is that correct?
They're
Yes,
not
we'd
vice
like,
presidents. They're not
Right,
vice presidents. There's
we
3
only
at-large.
have 1 vice president right now, but our bylaws state that we can have up to 3. And I think we're kind of at a critical place of growing the club and getting it stronger. And so both of those are as needed. So it's not like we must have 3 of either, but we can have up to 3. So we changed the bylaws now so we don't have to go through this change again. Is that clear? Yeah, okay, great. All right, so the fall fundraiser, I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to say about the party we had in the fall. Judy, let me just kind of get my
Yeah.
thought out, and then I'll get you.
Yeah, I'll sum up the fall party for us. Basically,
thank you.
As I said, we basically raised half that we had in the past. And, it was a pretty equal split. Maybe 60% were from the fundraiser, 40% were from our membership. I didn't quite do the numbers, but it was pretty equal, which is what we expected. We actually got more money from the fundraiser that we hoped to. And so, maybe we'll do another fundraiser in the spring to attract more judges. It seems to be the judges that helped finance us, as well as some of our sustaining members, as you know, Grace and Brian. And so, yeah, the fundraiser from our perspective is a great result. And I think people who came had fun. These people told me. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
So yeah, I think it was great. I loved our nominations for honorees. I thought it was very nice.
Yeah, people said it was cute. They really liked how we presented the honorees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Judy.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
You're muted, Judy.
Okay. Before we get off the change in the bylaws, I would like to propose another resolution to the bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to read it and explain it if anybody has any questions. The Grand Street Dems hereby resolve that no position statement can be made under the Grand Street Dems banner unless the voting members of the club have been polled and a majority have agreed to the statement. Furthermore, that any separate public statement by a member, including the executive board, that cites their membership or position in the club also include wording that their statement has or has not been endorsed by the club. We take a vote here if we're endorsing a candidate. We take a vote here if we are signing on to some other club's position letter. we take a vote if we want to present the club's position to any government body. And I think that the club has to speak as a majority whenever we address an important issue. And while, of course, members of the executive board or any member of the club has freedom of speech and can proudly identify as a member of this club, we should make it clear when the view is of club, the majority vote, or simply the personal view of the people making the statement.
So like the other change in the bylaws, we'll vote on that next time.
Yes.
I will, one kind of, just something to think about if this can be added in. We often vote on things as an executive committee that we later bring to the club because there's a time issue. So, certain statements we say, like the resolution that the transportation committee's been working on for the elevator at Delancey Essex. We voted to approve that as an executive committee, and then because we wanted to get something out because they were anxious to get support, and then we brought it up at the general meeting the next time we had one. So if you could think about some way to adapt what you're suggesting so that it wasn't one or two people. So it was, that time it was,
Marion, in that
totality.
situation, that was something that had been discussed in the meeting. People had indicated they were anxious to get ADA adaptations to the station, and it's not unreasonable to say that the board should do something. Similarly, if we endorse a candidate and that candidate says something stupid, in the past, we have come out with something that says we are disappointed and we will consider this, at our next meeting. But in this day and age, when Jeremy has been able to do all of his monkey whatever app polls, if something new comes up that we haven't discussed, it's easy enough to ask to poll the members within, a day.
Okay, well, and we're not going to vote on it tonight, so let's keep
No,
it
but
in
they
there.
may want to discuss it tonight so they can be prepared to vote if there are people who
Okay,
want to
let me
discuss it.
call on the hands raised and then see if that's part of the discussion or if there will be more. Bill and then Kenny.
One thing, I don't want to inhibit people to be able to express themselves as individuals. And so, you often see when people sign petitions, there'll be things that'll say, or open letters, they'll have the organization, but they'll say organizational mention is for identification purposes only, not to imply the organization. But more importantly, I think that the resolution should say the majority of the people who voted, because if we have a low turnout of votes, we'll never get a majority of all the people. So it has to, I think, basically be, I think what Judy says is right. We could do a survey monkey thing or any other. There's plenty of ways to do surveys, and we can send it out, but we can only really go by the majority of the people who actually respond. And so
Sure.
I think that'd be a fair modification to this. That's it.
Just so
Thank
you know,
you.
Bill, it does say voting members of the club have been polled. And I guess you wanted to say a majority of those who respond.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what I
course,
hear.
but yeah.
Okay.
My
Yeah, I
turn?
don't want to get into the whole debate about it now, but I just clarify what we would want to see come up. Kenny.
I think we should have more discussion about this because I think something that's not being brought up is that there's plenty of times when candidates like Grace or Chris or other clubs that will come to us and be like, can you guys like sign on to this? You need it by like 2 days, and we don't have another meeting for 3 weeks. And the opportunity is for us to sign on to something or not to sign on to something. And signing on to things have worked for us because politicians and other clubs want to work with us. And if all of a sudden we can't sign on to things because we have to wait for a general meeting, it's something we should think about, and maybe we can come up with a committee or something that can work on this rather than just wait for the next meeting to have a vote on something that's not very clear. This is what I
Okay,
think.
and thank you. And I will also ask you, Judy, to send me the wording with, if you could make the adjustment with, of people who responded. And I'll make sure to send it out to people so we can have more of a discussion next time if we need to. Lauda and then Jeremy.
Judy, I just wanted to understand what you're proposing is that if there's a statement coming from the Grand Street Dams, there would be maybe some kind of email sent asking people to say, do you agree with this wording or do you disagree? And people have 48 hours to respond. If they respond, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, many things happen in this city suddenly because of something. And we all feel in our hearts that we want to respond. I would just say that if we're going to respond under the banner of the Grand Street Dems, that the Grand Street Dems have some idea of what that response is going to be, and that we have some consensus of the people who bother to respond that this is what we want to say on any issue.
Okay, Jeremy, Carolyn, and then Kenny, and then can we cut this and move on with our agenda? But Jeremy, yeah.
Yeah, my question, Judy, and I'm sorry if I missed this when you were reading it, are you does your resolution allow for the executive committee to make an executive committee statement that is somehow noticed as not being a full membership statement?
Again, yes, it says here clearly that any separate statement, including the executive board, that cites their membership has to include wording that says the club endorsed or the club did.
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you. Carolyn and Kenny.
Thank you. Also, I know Marion will send out the wording, so I will get to see it later. But are you making a distinction between like a public statement that's like posted to social media versus like a letter to the club, which is not a public statement, or an endorsement?
No, if it's just going out to club members, it's just, I mean, Marion could send a letter today that says, isn't this terrible that Trump is treating the judge the way he is? Well, fine, send a letter to all of us. I'm sure we could all respond to that. But when it goes out to a position where we have to quote the Grand Street Dems, then yes.
So I'm sorry. Okay, so this will be in the
other
wording.
People are going to find out, and where they are going to assume that there was authorization just because of the way it's written.
Okay, I will wait to read the statement to see where the distinction is.
I am open to when I hope that Marion sends out the wording, and if there's any suggestions or whatnot on the wording to clarify it, please let me know. I don't have a Pulitzer Prize in literature.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay.
So my turn, I think. Yeah. So just one response to the question about just getting a survey from people. It is not practical to ask 80 members of the club for their opinion on something and get a response in like 48 hours of timely thing. That just is not realistic. In terms of other stuff, I feel like it hasn't been a problem in the past. The executive board members who've issued statements on behalf of the board have been reflective of the club's positions in a situation which might have just occurred recently. there was a misunderstanding. It was thought that the person had consented to the letter. So it wasn't about the club couldn't do something on its own with its own people consenting. There was a misunderstanding. So I'm not sure if this requires a big drastic club resolution or any change. In terms of Lee, it was just a misunderstanding, and this has seemed to work everything.
I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying where we should go in the future so that people know what they can and can't do.
Okay, so moving on, Carolyn is going to, since Lee's been named. Carolyn, you had something you wanted to say to the club.
Okay, yes. I have some updates. The first update is that Lee has resigned from Grand Street Dems. Some of you may already know this, but if you haven't, Lee is no longer a member of Grand Street Dems. And so what that means is that in a 12 to 18 months, we start the election cycle. The district leader election cycle starts up again. We were just elected, and in 2025, another election cycle will happen. And so the new rules state that the two district leaders from a part of an assembly district may not be of the same gender. We have finally, the New York Democratic Committee has updated it slightly. So it doesn't have to be one male and one female. It cannot be district leaders of the same gender in one part of the assembly. So this is the first call to members of Grand Street Dems who may want to run for district leader for the, in 2025. It's not too soon to start thinking about it. I can, we can meet for coffee if you're curious. If you know someone who you think would be good at this, there are lots of people who contribute tremendously to the neighborhood. I was just, Grand Street Dems, we had our table at the Corlier's Halloween event this weekend, which is just such a lovely event. The folks who, the folks who take care of our parks. I see Fanny is here, and Montgomery Triangle Park had a cleanup a couple weeks ago. There are so many folks in the neighborhood who do so much already for the community. There are no requirements to be a district leader other than you have to be a Democrat, and you have to live in the assembly district. You don't have to live in Part A. You just have to live in the assembly district. And Victoria's here. She can speak to, the glorious, all the riches that come with being a district leader. But it is a great community organizing position. And if you or someone I ran for district leader because Jeremy and Nina asked me to many years ago. Ask someone if they want to run. Victoria ran because I asked her to. And so sometimes you just need to tap that person who you're like, I think they might be good at this. So, this is like first notice. It won't be the last notice, but, think about someone running for district leader. And as always, if there are two people who want to run, if someone wants to run, not necessarily as female, but again, just like two different genders, talk to me. Okay. Let's keep this a lively and engaged position. And I was going to ask, I didn't see it on the agenda yet, and actually maybe Fanny can speak to it. Are we doing the Vision Urbana turkey drop again this year? Because I think if it happens, it'll happen right before our general meeting, November 20th. It usually happens the weekend before Thanksgiving. And so this is just sort of an early plug that I think that Saturday or Sunday is usually, last year that's when we partnered with Vision Urbana to deliver turkeys all around the neighborhood. It's really fun, and look for that in the email. And vote. Early voting is happening now. Go vote. If you're not sure how to vote, it was in the email that announced this meeting. But Chris is on the ballot. Let's just, big show of support for Chris. And there are also a couple of proposals on the ballot. Vote yes on both of them.
That's a good reason, actually, Carolyn, for people to sign up, to show up for an hour or two between now and election day. And I will give the link for signing up to Melissa so she can post it so everyone can sign up if they want to.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Jo.
Thanks. So Lee resigned from Grand Street Dems. He didn't resign from his district position, did he?
Correct.
And then, so Carolyn, are you guys, term limited or can you keep running? What?
We're not term limited. There are people who've been district leaders for like decades. And you know, Catherine, sorry, yeah. So you're not term limited. You know, a lot of people, and it's, you know, it is a very, I would say it's a somewhat flexible position. Are you interested? Can I interest you in being district leader?
No, I'm not. I just wasn't sure why
okay.
you talked about Lee and then said, you know, if you want to do this. I wasn't sure if he resigned that too, or if you guys were term limited out.
He didn't resign that, as far as I know, but he hasn't talked to me, so I'm not sure.
I just wasn't sure.
I don't think this is more for like 2025. I don't think Lee's gonna run again.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 2025.
Yeah,
right. And I figured it's 2023, so you threw that in there.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if, yeah. So
Right.
2 years ahead.
Because we were our election just happened in June.
Right.
I mean, like we were waived into office because we had no,
right.
You know, I didn't have a calendar. So we were both just reelected for a 2-year term. The terms were always 2 years. So you got to, you know, you petition and, you know, get on the ballot and every 2 years.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just to follow what Colin is saying. So in general, it's tough to become district leader. You got to get a lot of petitions. You got a lot to do with door knocking. Grand Street Dems did allow that on behalf of Lee. If someone else wants to run for district leader in 2025, then Lee is no longer going to be, he has to run for again. I don't think he'll run again, but we have enough money to run a district leader race if someone wanted to run against us. So the focus should be on, if you want to be district leader for the Grand Street Dems, just raise your hand and we can make it happen.
Not sooner than 2 years from now, though.
Yes, not sooner than 2 years from now, but we're looking for the future. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah, thanks. So Mary Jo knows it's only certain city positions that are term limited. And this district leader is a party position, so it wouldn't be affected by it. I just raised my hand because I know at the last meeting we had, I mentioned the problem with congestion pricing and that this area looks like it's going to have a negative impact from the projections that the MTA did for increased pollution and congestion. They said it would be increased from the area along the FDR Drive between 10th Street down to the Brooklyn Bridge. And I had brought this up to the CB3 Transportation Committee meeting 2 months ago, and they were able to get a representative from the MTA, which will address people on the question of congestion pricing, and hopefully we can find out about some mitigations about what they can do about the potential pollution. And I did put it in the chat, but it's going to be November 14th at 6:30 at the community center of LaGuardia Houses at 40 Montgomery Street. And it's in the chat. So hopefully people come up because will come and ask questions and find out what's going on. It's only in person.
Thank you, Catherine.
Sure.
Okay. So there's clearly open invitation to make your interest known if you have such an interest, and start working on that now. I would also encourage people, and I already said this, but before we really move on, to think about if they're interested, if anybody has an interest in running for an executive committee seat and wants to share it with us tonight, that would be great. Or if they're thinking they have an interest and they want to reach out to one of us, or you certainly can just announce it at the meeting, at the in-person meeting on November 20th. But I really want to encourage people to get more connected and more involved with us.
So Mary,
Okay.
I will nominate you for president, Melissa for vice president, me for treasurer, Laura for secretary, and Frank for a future at-large position. Someone want to second it, and then we can blast it out, unless anyone else wants to raise their hand. We'd love people to raise their hand.
I second it.
Okay,
Guys,
but that
sorry, I
doesn't
think
mean,
nominations happen at the next meeting.
yeah, that's Right, I don't think we're really nominating anyone now,
Well,
but
well,
we
the
are
email
making
said-
clear,
The email said we were accepting nominations tonight, so I just wanted to be clear that
Right.
people were nominated tonight. People are welcome to keep nominating
okay,
for the meeting,
Right.
but officially, these people were nominated tonight at our meeting.
okay, and that does not mean nobody else can run for any of those seats. So, but it also is a message that we are pretty clear, we're pretty happy with how things are going and feel like our executive committee is working. And, you know, and we've all kind of, each of us has given the interest in staying for another year. But I think that Jeremy's right, we can't actually accept the nominations until the next meeting. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just, that's the whole package that happens in that
Yeah.
annual meeting. Yeah.
Right, okay, that's what I thought. So that's good, but thank you, Kenny. Let's spend a few minutes talking about, actually, before we spend a few minutes talking about the next, let's talk about, I think there might be some other new business. We're not going to go right to it, but I want to make sure that we know to go to it. Anybody interested in putting something on the agenda for tonight? Bill? You're muted.
There.
There you go.
I mean, I just wanted to talk briefly about the campaign to get elevators at the Essex to Lansing stop. I don't know if this is the appropriate time for new business or if you already had it somewhere in the agenda.
It's not on the
don't, but-
agenda, so no one knows about it. So maybe you want to wait till November meeting so people can hear about it.
Okay. Yeah,
But I
well,
guess-
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, but I'm just saying this isn't, no one knows about it. So you might get a bigger audience. at the,
well, I guess I just wanted to fill in the people who are here about what, you know, part of it's drumming up. I've just really quickly, I've been meeting with a group called the Senior Advocacy Leadership Team at Manny Cantor, and they've been very helpful in pulling things together. We're going to do a petition campaign to get the MTA to move more quickly in putting elevators in the Essex to Lansing stop. That stop is the 22nd busiest in Manhattan. And there's already almost 45 stations in Manhattan that have elevators, and we don't, and they have 7 more planned for Manhattan, and they don't include us. And it's also something like the 29th busiest station in the entire subway system. And so we're pretty ignored here. Now, the station would be logistically or physically challenging to put in the elevators, but so are a lot of other places. So we're starting a campaign. I've contacted, besides SALT, the Lower East Side People's Power Partnership, you know, Valentina Jones's group, UA3, which runs the pantry over on Grand Street, and they have a big Asian population. A fellow named Albert Mercado from CODA has been very active in this, and actually Marion and the president of CODA and Richard's last name, Corman, yeah, from DID have met about this. We have petitions translated into Spanish, Chinese, and English. Well, English, we already had it. The Manny Cantor said they would help us with getting petitions signed by both their food plans. They have a lot of people come in for breakfast and lunch, a lot of seniors, but they also have a daycare center, and a lot of parents who have to tote kids around who could use it. So we're getting started. The plan is to do a petition campaign, try to get at least 1,000 signatures, which you think will be no problem, and bring them to the MTA meeting in December, the MTA board meeting. But we want to have a big, thick set of papers to dump on them with a lot of names. So that's the plan. And at some point, I'll be asking people in the Grand Street Dems to stand out in the corner of Target and Trader Joe's with Daisy Paez and myself to get some signatures. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. And I have already signed on to that resolution. That's one where the executive board signed on first and then the general meeting signed on. So that's something we're into. And I'm sure people will step up to get petitions signed. Victoria, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to give a quick update about the 24-hour workday. There was a rally on, oh gosh, was it 2 weeks ago now almost? And about 800 people showed up to the rally, which was great to show support for ending the 24-hour workday for Chris Marte's legislation and the city council. And I want to thank you, Grand Street Dems, for signing on to the letter that is asking Speaker Adams to put the bill to a vote. And I just also wanted to let you know that the Village Independent Democrats joined us as well, which is great. And we also have the New Kings Democrats in Brooklyn, as well as the Seaside Independent Democrats. And we're working on getting other clubs to sign on to this letter. So if it's not put to a vote, the home attendants are planning another rally on, I believe it's November 16th. But I just wanted to give you an update, let you know that we're still pushing and there's still a chance to make this happen. So just want to let you all know. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. And that was another time when the executive committee signed on because we wanted to sign on to something immediately and then put it out to general board. Melissa.
Hi. I'm going to put this in this week's newsletter, but I just wanted to flag that Chris Marte sent an email today that talks about participatory budgeting. It's that time of year again. There's $1 million to spend. So submit your ideas and vote on ideas that have been submitted.
Great, thank you. Catherine and Keen. Actually, Keen's had her hand up, so I'm going to call you. You don't have an electric hand, so I don't want you to get left out because you have a real hand.
Well,
Two.
I couldn't find my electric hand. I don't know why it's not working.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. I am very concerned about the early voting. And so people are now voting. I think we need to have a movement to have early voting. 3 changes: far fewer days, longer hours, and definitely the weekend before elections. But I haven't, I'm not ready, and I'm working on the whole idea of getting specifics here. But everybody should do early voting and sort of look around and see whether you think it would be more effective to have, for instance, 8 to 8 the weekend before an election, rather than as many days as we have, and with hours changing day to day, because that's the direction that I'm hearing makes more sense. Not now, but look, start thinking about what kind of reforms we need for early voting. I'm very much in favor of early voting. I think that but we're not doing it very well. We as a city and a state.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keen. Catherine.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Bill. Oh, by the way, the Val's group tonight just voted to send the letter on the elevator at Essex and Delancey.
Right.
But I was wondering, what's the story? Have you put that before the community board? Because when it comes up, they always say, and people are always asking, they thought it was part of the Essex Street Mall project and that it was supposed to come up. So what's the story with that? And
okay, so
the
community board twice, once as far back as 2004, passed resolutions asking for elevators there. And then more recently, I think in 2017, I was able to get them from Albert Mercado, the fellow I mentioned before from CODA. I asked Linda Jones about the whole Essex Crossing thing, and I think also Michelle Coopersmith, who's on the transportation committee for CB3. And the answer was that while that was consistently asked for from the Essex Street developers, that was never officially a commitment by them. It was never like etched. It was never like etched in legal stone, you know,
I
so
actually
that
thought it was, but okay.
so apparently there's enough there that they can sort of keep putting it off. And I mean, people are thinking that the ideal time now is because of Senator Gillibrand's, you know, she got the grant, she made the big announcement because she's running for re-election. They got for the road diet on Delancey Street, so they're going to be tearing up that corner anyway. And the Essex Crossing people are supposed to be working at the original Essex Market. You know, I mean, they're going to tear that down and build something. So we figure that's the perfect time when everything's all torn up to put it in. But unfortunately, yeah, I don't. The impression I got is that there is no legal commitment for the Essex Crossing developers, who I think they're L&M and some other folks,
Oh,
for
well,
them to have to do it.
Yeah.
One other
infamous.
One other point about that, there was a study that I saw last spring that apparently the elevators that are installed by the private concerns that say they'll do elevator entrances to subways versus the MTA. I know people are going to find this hard to believe that they're actually worse than the MTA's elevators, but apparently the private concerns go even more for the lowest bidder, and their elevators are not nearly as well maintained. So we almost want the MTA to do it.
All right. Well, if you want, I'll start pushing the board again. I mean, I'm not on transportation, but I got him to put the congestion pricing thing on, so I don't see any problem with pushing.
Michelle
We're
Coopersmith
having
would
a
be
hearing
is
on it, so
very.
they can tell you.
Michelle Coopersmith, I'm sure, would be very behind this. So if you talk to her about it, you know, I'm sure they will try to get some movement on it. But yeah, that'd be great.
Quite
to
frankly,
revive
Bill, they should have you should have a hearing on it and be able to ask them the question. In fact, if you come to that congestion pricing meeting, it's an MTA representative, ask them.
Michelle made it pretty clear she doesn't want us to talk about anything else but the congestion pricing issue.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But, you know, if we're looking for mitigation, one of the things you want is to get people access to public transportation. So congestion pricing.
Well, the plan is to go directly to the MTA at that one of they do monthly board meetings. They're at least better than the Department of Transportation because they actually expose themselves to the public twice a month. So we will, that is the plan with the petitions. But I didn't mention, we also had all the electeds, and I know someone like Banny's here, Grace Lee's office, Chris Marte's office, Congressman Goldman's office. They've all signed on to a letter to the MTA saying it's time to do this. So getting the MTA to move is a challenge, but yes, we're going to keep. If you know anyone in the MTA, call them up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And Mary Jo.
A quick note to Keen, the early voting is on Saturday and Sunday also. It's just not on Monday. The hours do change every day, but early voting is on Monday or Saturday and Sunday.
Well, but it's also on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, isn't it?
Right, but I thought you said that there's no voting on the weekend prior, but there is voting on the weekend prior.
There is, and I want to keep that.
Yes, okay.
Thinking.
Yeah, but you're right, the weekday hours are, it's a cluster, it's crazy, they change. And then Bill, when are you going to have the petitions that we can sign or sign our name to the petition? You're muted.
Thank you. I keep on trying to turn myself off because I make a lot of background noise. We actually have the petitions now. I was hoping Daisy was maybe show up, but I think I'm gonna see you at a SALT meeting tomorrow at Manny Cantor. We're planning to start being out in the street this week. And then if we can work up a schedule and get some folks, we can get the petitions printed anytime. They're all ready to go.
Okay,
So
because
can
I'd like to sign, I'm leaving town, so I'd like to sign before I go
when are you leaving?
Sunday.
Okay, I'll find you. All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Okay, so I think that Keen raises a really good point. The early voting numbers are not good. And I think that I'm sitting here thinking I have not early voted yet. I usually do, but I also so easy to vote on election day right in my lobby. So that's kind of an interesting dilemma.
Marion,
Go ahead,
I
Kim.
voted today and I looked at the machines and I voted probably around noon. There were about 150 people had voted throughout for,
Mhm.
total as of today, around noonish, which is
Wow.
sad. But
Yeah,
the guy also told
it's
me
very
Manhattan
sad.
seems to have the highest number of early turnouts.
Yeah, and probably the neighborhoods that have more more choice. I mean, we don't have a lot of choice that we're voting for right here. But we don't want to lose Chris Marte because we think it's all a done deal and not go out and vote. So it is really important that we go out and vote. And I think it's really important to go out and vote early.
Yeah,
And
so Mary,
I'm going to go
just so
vote.
everyone knows, just to follow up on this, the Grand Street Dem sent a text out to the whole entire Lower East Side, east of Howland, south of Houston, with a reminder to do early voting. I early voted, so I know that Chris City Council race was on the bottom of the front ballot. So reminded people that the City Council race was on the bottom, the front, and the measures are on the back. We encourage people to vote yes. And it was thousands of people got this text. So we're trying our best
Yeah, that's great.
to get out the vote for all the Democratic
Right.
candidates.
Much more community building if there are more people voting, because when you vote early, to me, and you're just the only one, it's like, am I crazy here? What am I doing? So I like the idea of consolidating it so you have sort of a community spirit for early voting rather
Right.
than dribs and drabs. And and also the weekend before, it makes sense. Weekend voting, in fact, makes sense for people who are working 9 to 5 on weekdays. So we do need early voting. I'm very much in favor of it, but I also want to do it in such a way that both saves money for actually public education, but also makes voting a public service activity that people do with other people, rather than you just by yourself say, well, I guess I should.
Should we bring back the stroll to the polls?
Just
We
thinking
have
that.
not had good attendance recently, but Keen, it sounds like you're in favor of like it's not too late. We could do it like, Saturday or
weekend.
Sunday. Sunday's marathon day, so that's maybe like people want to go watch the marathon, but I don't know.
I mean, fine. I'm not at this point. I think we need to start thinking about what we should recommend. And I also think that Democrats who actually lobbied for early voting, we've got a reason why we have to figure out how to make it effective.
Yeah.
Listen to us because they know we're for it.
Mhm.
I do think Marion has a point that our neighborhood is not the best test case because we have the easiest election day poll sites. And so it's like, this is like, oh, we have to cross the street to vote, So it's like, I wonder if other parts of the city, if they have slightly more, but it's also, this is a really slow year election wise as well. So
again, even when I'm aware of this in other parts of the city, there is no place where early voting is a mass activity. It's dribs and drabs, even when they have, important elections. But 2 more days will do it, I think. I want everybody to start putting it on their radar, what we should recommend. Because like Judy, I haven't decided, I don't want to say this is what's best, but I want people to start
Mhm.
thinking, we all figure out what's best.
Well, some of the things we can think about are whether we go to early voting or election day, who can we invite and encourage to go with us? I think it's really important to bring, a couple of people that, a lot of people say, oh yeah, well, there's not really anything to vote for. I'm not really going to go. All right, well, let's go out to morning coffee and then go vote together. So just to kind of make it part of, like, it doesn't have to be a whole community thing is nice too, but that we each make a commitment to do that with somebody. Like, yeah, just let's go, let's hang out and then go vote, or let's vote and then go to lunch or something like that, and get a couple of people so that people who may not be voting because they don't think it's that important right now. I've heard lots of people say that. I've had lots of conversations with people. So if we could all make a commitment to do that, I think that would be very helpful.
Marion, do we have any outreach to young voters? I mean, really young voters, like first time? Because I know when I worked the polls, you could kind of see who was, voting for the first time was a big deal. And I always tried to celebrate that. So if we had connections to the early or the young voters, like the first timers, second timers, I think that would be really fun too. Plus, it gets them into the habit of doing it.
I think we don't. And that's a great idea.
Great idea. And next year's a presidential, and so it's
I mean, that would be a huge deal for first timers.
Like,
So the thing
really,
is,
celebrate.
In reality, there's no way to just connect with young voters, but we could possibly come up with lists based on registered voters and their age and their first time voting, and we can reach out to them, but it takes a little bit of work that the club has to put in to find out. There is no such thing as let's just connect with young voters.
Well, we also, the group
I am
has
uniquely
kids, right?
I have a kid who's turning 18 next year, so I am uniquely hooked in to a community of people who will be voting for the first time next year. But it could be, it's not necessarily, I think, Kenny, that we need to reach out to them previously, but we can make it like a Grand Street Dems announcement that's like, if you're voting for the first time, like, we want to, whatever, crown you the, like, yeah.
Or actually, Kenny, maybe in these texts
Carolyn,
that
you're
go out
muted
to
now.
the texts that go out to so many people, maybe there could be a paragraph or a couple of lines separated that say, if it's your first time voting, let us know. We'll get a group together or something, so that people also have a place to reach out.
Sure. Every time we send a text, everyone's input is always welcome. So we can tailor, obviously we can tailor our communications to what the club wants. That's not.
Yeah, and Melissa just said she's organizing a voter registration at her son's high school.
That's
So that's
great.
That's sort of, I don't know if we're allowed to, talk about Grand Street Dems at a high school, or, I just think it'd be a nice thing to do for the first and second time voters.
No, I mean, we can definitely do voter registration drives. We can get the forms, or we can get people to sign up online. You just need a place where people are going to be at to do it. So I know Frank has thought about doing it in the past for other people, and we've talked about it. So, it's a very feasible thing to do. We just need to actually get the details figured out. So thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, and it really is that the next election coming up is really important. So this is a good time for us to be talking about it. Kim, hi, Kim.
Hi there. I just
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I'm working on a youth registration project on a New York scale level, and also in all the swing states. So I've hooked up with an organization called Lift Every Vote, which has kind of taken us on under their umbrella. I'm working with 2 partners on this. So we're working with every swing state, so about like 10 or 11 swing states. And of course, New York is not considered a swing state. So while we have funding in all the other states, we do not have funding yet in New York. But what we're doing is we're collecting in New York City, not all of New York State. We're collecting the names of every history teacher or government teacher or economics teacher in every public school in New York City, the 5 boroughs. So I have about 2,000 listings right now, maybe 2/3 of the way through. This was kind of unbeknownst to me, but the executive director of Lift Every Vote said there is a way to get the kids' names who have registered, like once they've participated in a program at school, that you kind of have to buy the software, but she's working on it. So I don't know if that will ever be shareable, but I do know that every kid who goes to a public school on the Lower East Side at some point will hopefully have had the opportunity to have outreach. Like we're sending the teachers, free material and saying, hey, if you want these postcards for the kids, which will have, a scannable code so they can register right away, hopefully every kid in New York will get these in the end, but it's hopeful, but possible.
That's great work.
Well, thank you. Hopefully it's
That's
gonna
really,
happen.
Well, that's what I was going to raise my hand for. I think it's great work. There seems to be an desire from the club to reach out to youth and or first-time voters. So I know, Kim, you said that data might not be available, but if it costs some money, the Grand Street Dems could possibly just get the data and do stuff on our own. So obviously connect us with any possible.
I will definitely poke around and report
Yeah.
back into,
Thank you.
if that
And
is.
also, I work for a group called Environmental Voter Project, and we send postcards and contact people. And Jeremy can speak to this too, probably more knowledgeably than I can. But voting is public. Who you vote for isn't public. So I would imagine registration is public also, so we could get the first timers. I don't know. If it tells you when they registered to vote. So if it's recent, we would know that and we could reach out to them in our neighborhood.
Actually, I think who you do vote for is public knowledge. It's kind of weird.
No, it's not. It's not.
You
can't
see
know
if
who I
somebody
voted
vote
for.
Republican or
That's
Democratic.
registration, but who you vote for is private.
Hmm.
so
That's
just
it.
the party is public, but the person is private.
Right. And if you're registered, at least in New York State, I think this is the way it is, that if you're for a primary, you have to be registered in that primary.
Yeah.
But you can, in the general, you can vote for whoever you want, but who you vote for is private.
That's
It's
true.
not
Yeah,
publicly
you're
available.
right.
Yeah, and I think, I know that there are people who register for a certain party in New York just so they could have a voice, even though they vote for the other party afterward. But I just wanted to say that this conversation is amazing, and that is a great opportunity for an at-large position.
Yes. Also, just let everyone know, we have all public available data of voters in this district. We have it. It's about narrowing down the specific information that you want. And if we want specific ages, we just need to figure out how to do it. But we have data. We got the data from the state. Anyway.
Jeremy,
Just
can you
end
speak up to this?
We have the data. I have it saved on my hard drive. I have all the registered people with their parties, their addresses, their phone number, their emails. We can tell if if they actually are not registered in Democrats. You can bump people off the ballot based on that. We have the data. It's just about if you want specific things, we have to figure out how to draw from it. Jeremy might be able to help us out, but I think we're in a good position to do what we're talking about now. We just need to focus in on extrapolating the data that we have.
Kenny, I did that for Chris Marte in his first campaign. If I get the data in any kind of form that I could put in a spreadsheet or a database.
I have a spreadsheet, Bill. The state for the first time emailed it.
I can narrow it down by birth date if you want to do it that way. So
I'll email you the list like in an hour after the meeting. And if you can play with it, my guess is I played with it, and I'm very limited on my spreadsheet capabilities. My graduation year, and I don't work with it. I never use Excel.
okay, so we can do this offline, but just
Okay,
I can,
cool.
yeah. You dodged a bullet there, Jeremy.
So there's some new people. There's some new people that are new to me and maybe new to the club that I would just want to invite to speak up. There's also somebody just came on iPhone 13. Do you mind identifying yourself, please? You're on mute if you're trying to answer. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak up? And I will actually, my co-host will deal with iPhone 13. Thank you. Brian, I see you showing yourself. I think maybe that's a
Sure, thank you. And no, and thank you for hosting this and setting this up for everyone. My name is Brian Christ. I'm a court attorney in civil court now, and I had a great time petitioning with actually you and other people at Grand Street this past season and helping get Ron Thomas onto the ballot as a district leader. And I'm looking forward to talking to you all more.
That's great. I knew I knew the name. Now I remember who you are. Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And
It's nice
Ron
to be
did
here.
very well.
Yes, he did.
Anybody else that would like to speak up? Nina?
Hi, good evening.
Ninfa. I'm so sorry. Is it Ninfa?
Ninfa, yes. Hi.
Yeah.
I'm relatively new. I've been here now 3 years in Hillman. I spent 18 years over at Battery Park City and 25 years in the Bronx, and moved a few times. Work in St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx. Hi, Kathleen. And been around for a while, again, in different communities, but I'm trying to make myself at home here. And I wanted to be able to at least start being more active. Work has been very busy where I am in the Bronx, so I haven't been able to do anything else. But I really appreciate this meeting and the ability for everyone to talk and express their views. And I think it's a great group. So I appreciate tonight's meeting and hope to be able to participate in the future.
Thank you very much. I know that you had some questions before the meeting. Do you feel like that you feel better that everything's been discussed during the meeting?
I'm comfortable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ninfa. I really appreciate that. Anybody else that would like to speak? Oh, Tahani.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's good
How
to
are
be.
you?
It's been a while. I'm doing very well. My name is Tahani. I'm a civil rights attorney. Some of the folks on here know me. I ran for a district attorney about 2 years ago. So it's just good to be back and getting reacquainted. I recently had a baby girl. She's 5 months. It's my first. So that's been my, to all the parents out there. I more respect to my mom and my sisters who have kids, but so she's been my new boss and manager, but it's good to come and just say hello and see everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's see, who else? Anybody else want Lauren? Okay, no pressure to speak. I just feel like sometimes some of us speak a lot and the rest of us don't. Oh, okay. iPhone 13 is Marlena. Would you like to say hello, Marlena?
Hi, thank you for joining.
And thank you, Bill. Okay, I don't know if you can, if maybe Marlena can't.
Marlena's a new member.
Yeah, a brand new member. She joined
Brand new member.
yesterday, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, so thank you for joining and thank you for being here. And if you would like to talk, we would love to hear you. Okay, no, I'm not going to give any pressure there. I don't really have anything else on the agenda unless somebody wants to bring up anything else. I would like to hear from Carolyn and Melissa, who represented Grand Street Dems at the Halloween thing at Corlears Hook. So Melissa, you were
Well,
raising balloons before. I didn't
I'm
know if it
kind
was
of
about
with
Halloween.
in the rain. I didn't show up.
It's
Oh,
okay.
okay. So Carolyn,
It was a triumph over the rain. Mostly held off till like the last. I mean, it rained lightly until about the last 15 minutes. My big takeaway is that the sort of like spooky witch fingers were a big hit. So if you haven't already stocked up on those spooky plastic fingers, they were part of sort of the allergy friendly bin, and all the kids wanted the spooky fingers. Sour Patch Kids, popular as always. But the adults really went for the 100 grand bars, and which are the best, I gotta say. And then at the end, when there was still some leftover candy, the guys, Michael Marino, you know, who's the grand poobah of Corlears Hook Park, and his, you know, band of pranksters, everyone was like super psyched for the York peppermint patties. So that's the current candy report. This year's candy report right now. And it's a wonderful event. I love it so much. It's such a beautiful use of that park. I know that they do so many great community events, and the Halloween one is the one that I always really look forward to. And even in the rain, they pulled off just a wonderful event. So, you know, it's 2 hours of handing out candy and seeing really great costumes, and Grand Food Dance has a table every year, you know, come by.
very fun.
Do we
Okay, well, I don't
have
want to.
pumpkin
Go ahead.
smash this year? That's another thing that they often do.
Pumpkin smash.
Yeah, I'll have to ask Mike.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else, I don't want to just keep calling people. Fanny, it's nice to have you here. I don't know if you have anything you want to, actually, can you report out on your Montgomery Triangle Park event last week?
All right, hold on. Let me put my video on.
Hey, Fanny.
Hi. Yeah, so last week the Montgomery Triangle Park had it's my park day, and being that it moved to Sunday because of the rain on Saturday, I mean, the turnout was a little bit less than usual, but we still got stuff done. So Jeremy was there, Ian was there, yeah, and then some other people were there, so it still turned out okay. I budget, you know, I on that statutory budget for a low railing for that park. As many of you might know, I've been railing, you know, to keep the park separate, so the park would have a perimeter. So if you guys could go on the participatory budget site and click on my idea and just like vote for it or have a comment on something. I'll send the link soon. I got to send out the email about it. So I do actually have some updates for from AM Lee's office, Let me see. So I don't know if you guys might have seen on the news that Grace Lee was involved in that that whole press conference about the OBGYN doctor, Dr. Robert Haddon. So on October 24th, Assemblymember Lee had a press conference with survivors to demand that Columbia University take accountability for its role in the crimes of Robert Haddon, an ex-OBGYN doctor who's accused of assaulting over 500 women during his 25-year employment with Columbia University, and who is now in federal prison. Our office led a bipartisan letter signed by over 30 assembly members calling for Columbia to both notify Haddon's past patients about his crime before they lose the opportunity to seek justice when the Adult Survivors Act expires on November 23rd, and also to conduct an independent investigation into the failures that allowed Haddon to commit his abuses for decades. The other thing that our office is also working on is letters. We had a press conference on October 19th about the illegal weed shops. Our office and Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office are sending out letters to the landlords to the illegal weed shops, letting them know the penalties and consequences if they don't do something about their stores, about those illegal stores. We also had a press conference about commuter van exemptions for congestion pricing. Our office, along with Senator John Liu's office, working to have the exemptions for the commuter vans to protect the people that rely on them for transportation between Manhattan and outer boroughs. I don't know if you guys know, but there are like these commuter vans that go from like Brooklyn to Manhattan and also like from Chinatown to also to Queens, that a lot of these many workers take from the outer boroughs. So we're advocating for the exemptions for those commuter vans for the congestion pricing tolls. The other thing is human trafficking bill signing. Governor Hochul recently signed Assemblymember Lee's bill, which extends New York's interagency task force on human trafficking for another 4 years. This new law will allow the task force to continue their critical work to eliminate human trafficking in New York and support survivors. Let me see what else. We did a Suffolk Street, Delancey Street walkthrough to look at the issues that are happening over there with the, a lot of drug addicts and homeless people are hanging out in that area. So we're looking at, we're trying to resolve the issues. We're working with different agencies and also working with Brian Kavanaugh's office and also Chris Marte's office and also CB3 to figure out, what resources we can pool together and try to alleviate this situation. Baxter Street walkthrough with the Department of Transportation. Assemblymember Lee walked with DOT Commissioner Ed Pinkar and local residents to create an open dialogue to ensure the city is aware of the impact of the Chinatown jail construction is having on the traffic, accessibility, and small businesses in the area. Let me see what else. Here's something. So our office is looking for local businesses to nominate for the New York's Historic Business Preservation Registry. This registry honors local historic businesses for their contributions to the local community and provides them promotional assistance and education assistance to ensure the continued success. Eligible businesses must be 50 years of age or older and demonstrate a contribution to the municipality's history and or identity. So if you guys want to send in some nominations of local businesses that are older than 50 years old, definitely let us know. And that's it.
That's great. You mean the business itself, not the business owner?
No, the business itself, yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Fanny. Okay, well, if I know people are starting to drop off, and I think
I'm sorry, I just have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I have a quick question for Fanny. I'm sorry.
Okay,
she's still
go.
here.
Yeah, she's here.
Fanny, there is an article in the city, and I appreciate that Assemblymember Lee and Brian Kavanaugh are trying to do something about the shops, but there's just an article in the city, and I just sent you a link to it, basically saying the state is slowing down on its prosecution of shops. Yeah. That's it. I mean, just so you have the article, they're sort of going counter to what we sort of want and what you and the senator and what the assembly member and the senator are working for.
Yes, I'm sorry, Bill. You got cut off in the beginning. I missed the first part of your statement, but I do see in the chat that.
Yeah. I was just saying that I know that you had mentioned that Grace Lee and Brian Kavanaugh had come out about trying to get the shops under control, the unlicensed shops, and the article talks about how the state division for handling that is dropping prosecutions. So that's sort of counter to what you're asking for and what we want. So I sent you a link to the article so you can in the chat. It sounds like your audio isn't working right, or is mine not working right? I think.
Okay, well,
We can hear you, Bill.
Okay.
yeah, we hear you. And Fanny, you're on and off, but we heard you good when you were doing all your reporting. So I know nobody wants to stay to meeting longer than we have to. I feel like we've taken care of what we need to. We have two. We will send out in preparation for the in-person general meeting both the verbiage for Judy Wynn's proposal and the bylaw. And Jeremy reminded me during this is that our bylaws still say male and female for district leaders. So I don't think we need to take a vote to change that in our bylaws. We'll take care of that as well. I really appreciate meeting all our new members, and it's good to see you all always.
Thank you,
Any
Marion.
last
It's been great.
moment?
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Everyone.
Y'all
Thanks,
have a
Marion.
great night
Happy Halloween,
and have a
everybody.
fun Halloween.
Good night, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Marion.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. All right, there we go.